What up? What up? What up? It's Ibn Web Quran the Sum here. Another go around this official thanks thing here. Person I got going on, I just think about my adult life here as I just try to navigate it and figure it out. I mean, you think you could do everything by yourself, the invincibility and all that. But every now and then you need some help and not to be afraid to ask for help. Dana's one of those people that whenever I needed something or wanted something or just wanted to talk or what have you here, she was always there for me in regards to just trying to just help me out and put me in situations for me to just become better here. And I'm like really, really appreciative of that. So just have an opportunity to talk to her, probably get a little nosy, her journey, her walk through life here. I mean, she's lived a great life and serviced a lot of people as far as just the things that she's done and her travels and everything else as well too. So just looking forward to just getting Dana on and we're gonna talk. So just hold tight there. Hey,
Karan, how are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good, 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 good. You doing all right over there?
Oh my God, I am. I could complain, but nobody listens. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah. How about our family? Everybody's good?
Everybody's good. Everybody's good and in good shape. Yep.
Good to hear.
Okay.
Good to hear.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I have
And
a couple of. When you're finished with me, then I have a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about. But
sure, sure, no
I'll
problem.
take my position first, right?
Okay, all right, cool, cool, cool. I appreciate it here. I know when I talked to you about this, something I just decided to do probably a little over a year ago, just do something totally, totally left of me and that personality of mine here as far as just having some conversations, just hear people's walk through their life and everything else and anything they was willing to share here. And it's been a blast, like I said, just get an
Mm,
opportunity to talk to people I never thought I would talk to or people that I thought I knew but got to know a whole lot more and and
mm.
everything else. Like I said, it's just been fun here. So again, I have this huge wish list and maybe I'll get to it one day, but I'm just going to go step by step here.
Yes.
You being on that list too, so I'm glad I was able to get you. I know all
Oh,
the ripping and running and everything you got going on here, so I'm glad you was able to squeeze me in here.
oh, anything for you, Karan.
nah,
Anything for you.
nah, I appreciate it here. I appreciate it here. I know just when it's all said and done, as far as to start from the top here, like obviously live in Connecticut, Plainville, and all that. Were you born up here?
I am from Plainville. I'm third generation from Plainville. My grandfather was born in Plainville. My mother was born in Plainville, and I was born in Plainville. Now, there ain't no hospitals in Plainville. So
Okay, yeah,
my
okay,
me and my mom were born in Bristol Hospital.
okay,
But my grandfather was delivered by midwives when my great grandparents came here. My great grandfather, they are originally from Virginia, Goochland County, Virginia,
hmm
and they and my great grandfather, Clifton Johnson, um, migrated to uh, Rhode Island.
okay,
My aunts, my aunt, my two, my their first two children, they worked in the mines, right, where you like blast mines and make tunnels. But we don't
hmm
do that anymore because we done blasted all the
yeah,
tunnels. But that's when he was a miner, and they and um and my great grandfather decided when his daughters were school age that he wanted to bring them up in a place where there was a good school education, and
hmm
he heard Plainville had a good school system, so he relocated his family here. My grandfather was the first of their children born here, and there were six of them altogether. So, and he was the first son. So,
okay,
so they came here from so they came here from Rhode Island,
okay,
from
okay,
Virginia, and then my mom went to Plainville school systems.
hmm
We grew up here, and then I grew up in Plainville, and I raised my children here in Plainville as well.
Now I don't know if it's your grandfather's. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's some significance around this being like the first of something in the Plainville, or I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong here as far as
So there's some we were like the new Black family in
Okay.
Plainville because there was that we had a strong. There were the Naymans and the O'Neills, and there were some folks that had been here that were much more indigenous to Plainville
Okay.
than we were. But we definitely, sort of, you know, uh, put in stakes and
Hmm.
became some of the also Black families. You know, a lot of um, a lot of migration from the south to the north included that you would be a place where people that were coming through could stay and get established. So my grandfathers, my great grandparents, housed the first Black school teacher that
Okay.
was in Plainville. They helped establish the church, the Amy Zine Church. Dug the helped purchase the land and dug the hole and the whole 9 yards. Establishing roots in the community. My family has been pretty instrumental in that. And my mom, who now is the keeper of the Black history in Plainville,
Mhm.
continues that legacy.
Okay, I know some ties there. There's some good stuff there in regards to first or just even reestablishing as far as blacks there in Plainville, what have you.
Yep.
Your childhood. I mean, everybody says normal childhood. What was your childhood like? I mean,
Yeah.
normal. What was your normal? I guess
What is normal? There's no
I know,
normal is
especially these
what you're
days.
right. I think growing up in an all white community
Hmm.
has its challenges as
Okay.
well as um, being in a all Black community if those communities are designed to continue to marginalize and keep people oppressed and separate, right?
Hmm.
So, so there's a lot of culture that is about who we are as a Black people. So we even though we were in this area, right? This is a Plainville, New Britain, Bristol, Southington, Farmington area where we tend to be a little more scattered. We always came together in places like the Elks Club,
Hmm.
where they had activities that would bring us together. Some of those Masons, those fraternal organizations, as well as White Rose Court and Knights of Pythias and
Hmm.
AKAs and Jack and Jills and links. All of those were ways for us to you sort of come together, as well as the church, the Black church.
Hmm.
Um, and the Black church in Plainville was really established because they didn't want Blacks to worship in the white churches, and congregational churches were usually segregated, so you'd have the whites in one section and
Hmm.
the Blacks in the other section. And so um we so I my childhood, so I grew up in town, sort of born in the 60s. So I often identify myself as I say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, baby.
Hmm.
My mom was a self-employed um, seamstress, so she sewed clothes for a living. She was also a phenomenal musician, and she played the bass guitar, being one of the first female bass guitarists in New England. Um, where she got that job taking a challenge. So my father and my mom met, and loved dancing. They used to dance at the
Yeah.
Palladium, a lot of Latin dancing.
Hmm.
Um, uh, that's what my parents did. But my father was a percussionist. He had started off on the bass and graduated to drums, congas, timbales, very, very rooted in the Latin rhythms, would sit for hours in the park with his buddies in Waterbury and just play,
Hmm.
play, play.
Yeah.
But my father was playing in a band. Actually, funny story aside, I was downtown New Britain in this music shop, And the owner of the music shop, I was getting a flute fixed, and I was in the music shop. And my father lives in New Jersey. My father's been in, well, my father passed away, but my father lived in New Jersey since I was 10.
Mhm.
So now fast forward, I'm working in the New Britain DCF office,
Mhm.
and I go in the store, and the guy says to me, I'm talking to him. He goes, Snell, Dayna Snell. Like, and listen, nobody was no Snells in Plainville. I was the only one. I'm my father's only child. So the guy goes to me, hey, I know a Snell. It's
Yeah.
always somebody I don't. Do you know Bob Snell? I was like, well, that's my father. And he
Mm.
was like, yeah. Well, he points to this picture, and he goes, your father played in this polka band with me.
Wow.
So my father was a bass player in New Britain in a polka band. Now, those of us that are from here know that all of us know how to speak a little bit of Polish and
Mhm.
polka, because that's part of your rites of passage when you live in the greater New Britain area. So
Mhm. Mhm.
so anyway, so my mom was divorced from my sister's father when my parents got together, and they never married. And My father was very significant in my life, but he lived in New Jersey
Mhm.
for most of that time. But every summer I would visit him, and so I had this incredible experience of being like a city mouse, country mouse. Do you ever hear that story about
Yeah,
the city mouse and
I've
country
heard
mouse?
that. Yes, yes.
Right. So
Yeah.
so like I was from Plainville, and then I would go to New Jersey where my father lived in East Orange, Newark.
Mhm.
Um, right in the 70s, there were lots of abandoned buildings,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
right. And I had abandoned buildings where it was my playground. We stayed.
Mhm.
I stayed with my father's wife's sister, my aunt Shirley, right around the time where they had welfare hotels. Um, and
Mm.
so I was in Newark in a welfare hotel in, you know, that was where the babysitter was, where we'd be all during the day while my father worked. And um, but it was pretty. I mean, it was a pretty exciting experience, except that since I came from Plainville, they thought I was white, or they
Yeah.
thought I was white, or they thought I spoke white, or you know. Little did they know that when you're the only one, like, you're absolutely not white, right? When you
Mhm.
are the only Black person, you either work really hard to try to assimilate, or you really work really hard on trying to sort of counter, myths and misperceptions that people have about you all the time. Um, and so your normal, right, childhood becomes what's regular.
Yes.
I had a beautiful extended family. My grandfathers, all of them lived in Plainville, um, and lived in proximity. And so my great grandmother was alive probably till I was 12. So I really, every holiday we all got together. So we had cousins. My mom's first cousins are still extremely close.
Mhm.
Oldest being 90, my mom's 95. So
Mm.
they're both 95, but when they get together, they're like the closest people ever. So I did get that experience of community. And I think that experience of community sort of uh, uh, um, drove sort of the passion about kind of the things that I do today. But I know that people believed in me. Like, I just knew I was going to college. I didn't know how I was going to college. I didn't know what money I was going to college. Or,
Mhm.
actually, my father said my father had money for me to go to college. Because people would do that. You'd get a life insurance policy or some kind of thing. You know, before you
Right.
had a check account, whatever, like, under the mattress, whatever that was. But my father also had um, a couple of wives that didn't really understand that I came with the package and would, when it got time to go to school, I didn't have any. My father bought a house with the money that he was saving for me, with the plan that they would take a mortgage out when I was ready to go to school, because that was an investment in equity, which is, smart, except that when it got time, she wanted siding. So I figured out how to go to school without his money because I was going to school. And, and then took whatever nickels and dimes he was able to give to me when he could. I loved my maternal grandmother was a accomplished pianist who grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
My grandmother
definitely.
was right. my I have a extreme affection for New Jersey. My grandmother was born in my maternal grandmother. She was born in Philadelphia. Came and lived in Trenton, Princeton as a little girl in that area, but grew up in Elizabeth.
Okay.
And ended up in Cranford. So in Cranford, my great grandfather was a tailor, and my grandmother was very sheltered. So when she when she was graduating high school, she got a full scholarship to Spelman, but she didn't want to go south because she was afraid to go south, and found out that her father before he married her mother, and her and her brother were born, that he had a family in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay.
We had a different name. So his oldest daughter, Marie, found him, and she too they had these parallel lives. Like Marie was a pianist, accomplished pianist. She had a brother named Charles. My grandmother, Varela, was a pianist. Her brother was Bob. You know what I mean? So it was just sort of this thing. So Marie lived in Springfield and got my grandmother a job as a domestic in Hartford. So in this house with this family in Hartford, my grandmother, who never had to do anything, she never cooked, she never cleaned, she didn't do anything, was now a domestic in Hartford with a
Okay.
family who subsequently never had a maid. So they didn't know what to expect to have a maid, and she didn't know what she was supposed to do to be a maid. But she also was in Hartford to study music at the conservatory.
Okay.
So she was able to come and live with a family, that she always tells the story about how, the lady of the house showed her for about 4 weeks what to do. And she said, and I watched. And she goes, and like about the 4th week, she was like, Varela, maybe you should try it now. So she was like, oh, all right. But my grandmother was, here and played like tennis and was on the Jack and Jill, and some, and a friend of hers, Adeline Gomes, who lived in Plainville, thought my grandfather would like a nice Latina lady. And so she introduced him to her, and he was absolutely smitten, and bought a house and married my grandmother, and which they were together for over 50 years.
Wow.
So I had sort of this. Now my mom wasn't, like she married my sister's father. That didn't work out. She didn't stay with my father. That didn't work out. She didn't stay with my sister's father. She's a great lady, but it didn't work out. So like sort of but I still had that like stable kind of family structure, because my grandparents were that, so they sort of modeled that, and they also spoiled my mom. So like they took care of us, and she could sew all day and play the bass at night, and and set standards and boundaries and things to help us be really good people. But we had a community. We really had a community that supported us, and you needed that community when you lived in a place like Plainville, where
Right.
you were the only one, where they had very low expectations of, what you could or couldn't do, whatever those barriers were. Um, but I was a little bit more feisty and bright, and I was probably like a social worker, even at like 5 or 6. I
Okay.
often say that I was that like I was born in the 60s. So I would say like I was sort of that like say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud baby, probably had a dashiki and Pampers, when I was growing
Hmm.
up. My mom was very intentional about having African artifacts around our house. We were very intentional about not falling into the complexion issues. So the lighter of us, we weren't allowed to make comments about people being dark or black. My mom
Hmm.
absolutely didn't tolerate that.
Hmm.
And didn't, you know what I mean? All of those subtleties you know, that come with being Black people as a
Right.
people, and all our isms and stuff. My mom was very deliberate that we had to, that we were all good people and that we all came in all different shades, and one shade wasn't any better than the other shade. Um, I mean, we still, like we still had to get our hair straightened, and my great aunts were, we definitely had color issues in our extended family.
Okay.
Um, you know, but at the end of the day, like we really had support. Um, and I think that really is what made the difference between me being, managing people's cases and being a case.
No, no, definitely, definitely. How was school for you as far as navigating elementary through middle school, high school for you? I mean, obviously you mentioned being smart here, so this how was school for you, whether socially
So,
or academically?
my mom told me growing up, right, that life wasn't fair, right?
Hmm.
These are things that like I still live by today, right? Why does it matter? Doesn't matter why.
Hmm.
Don't tell me why. Just tell me what's going to happen. Life isn't fair. People are going to treat you a certain way because you're Black. You're going to have to work harder, be smarter
Hmm.
than your white counterparts, right? Um, and so like I would be invited over friends' house, but my friends couldn't come over my house because I was Black.
Hmm.
My principal in my elementary school told me I would amount to nothing.
In elementary, really? Uh,
Yep, her name was Elizabeth Baranowski,
mm,
big old fat white lady, and school wasn't easy for me. Like I couldn't tolerate the subtleties that how people treated us. I mean,
mm,
some Black people will say like I didn't experience any of that, but I'm telling you, like it's not true. Like we
mhm.
all experienced it. Kindergarten was hard for me. I was it wasn't unusual for the janitor to carry me out and take me to the office because yeah, well, number one, my first problem.
The janitor.
Mhm, yeah, because 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 he was a janitor. Somebody had to come get me. I was out of control, according to them.
Mhm,
But my first problem was I would not say the Pledge of Allegiance.
mhm,
And in 1969, I didn't stand up and I wouldn't say the Pledge of Allegiance, and so I got in trouble for that. But I had decided that the Pledge of Allegiance didn't apply to me, nor did the songs.
mhm.
So I didn't think that what was I pledging to when this world was not equitable. I mean,
Yes.
could you imagine a kindergarten? I must have been a piece of work, right? And I didn't have like a whole bunch of people with me. I was the only kindergarten. I was the only brown kid in my kindergarten class.
Mhm,
Um, we, I think that I responded very organically to the subtleties of a negative environment that didn't really encourage me. And so because I was, and I was, and I wouldn't back off, and so subsequently I was a troublemaker, and I was, I caused it trouble, and the principal, decided that I would amount to nothing. And I often think about that, because how dare you say that to children,
Right.
somebody's child, right?
Mhm.
How comfortable are you that you could say things? But those same well-intended people said things like, you people are good with your hands. You probably want to be a secretary. In high school, I was advised not to go to an HBCU because they weren't accredited.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
isn't why I didn't go either. I tried. I just couldn't afford it. But definitely, growing up, they had this experiment where they put like all the black, brown, and white trash kids in this class called pre-first and pre-second. Said we weren't emotionally ready to go from kindergarten to first grade. And so by the time you graduated, you were a grade behind. Had the same teacher for 2 years. That wasn't so very good, but it's just sort of that kind of like like my mom told me, what life was going to be like, but I didn't believe it. But as I experienced it, I was able to sort of acknowledge and navigate it. Right. I had also decided that I was going to have friends. And so I made people be my friend. I did not participate in activities that were not, I guess I was like really logical. There were some kids that had vandalized this lady that they called the pig lady, who had all this property. There was always some scary ghost story about somebody who lived somewhere. And I remember the kids, like they were going to vandalize, like throw trash on her, just something different. And I said, well, I'm not like, that lady didn't do nothing to me. I'm not doing that.
Right.
And the kids and the peers, right? They're like, well, if you don't do that, we're not going to be your friend. I was like, I guess you're not going to be my friend, because there's nothing you could make me sort of lean into that peer pressure. So and you know what? They still were my friends, because they all got in trouble and I didn't. But I guess I also understood that the consequences for me would have been very different as a Black kid. I mean, maybe not on a conscious level, but definitely, when I got to junior high school, I made a conscious decision to have a different reputation. So like I sort of said that, here I am, I got this reputation of being a complicated, tough kid. But in junior high, which they now call middle school, in junior high, I could now start new. I'm in a new school. So I made friends with the principal.
Okay.
I made friends with the nurse. I made friends with administrators. I just sort of came in, said hi, was my sort of bubbly self. So when things happened in the classroom, I had a different reaction, right? Dayna didn't do that. How could she do that? We don't believe that, because now they have a different relationship with me. I was a worker. So when I was young, my mother didn't have any money, and I wanted all the things, I wanted the Converse the new leather Converse high tops.
That's
And
right.
the neat socks, right? I was on the basketball team, Quran. I wasn't no joke. And my mother didn't have no money to buy no sneakers. We just buying sneakers at the grocery store. I was like, I am in junior high school. I will not wear those sneakers. So I worked. I always worked 2 or 3 jobs in order to earn money to be able to have, the things that my mom couldn't afford to buy. I was, I signed up for everything. So park and rec, I played softball. I was on the softball team. I went to high school. I played basketball. I mean, I wasn't really I was in the band. I played the flute, and then when I went to high school, I switched to the trombone. And in junior high, the teacher taught me how to play the trombone. And I had piano lessons, which made it easy for me to read the bass and the treble clef.
Okay.
Right. So right. And I really never did the work to be able to really play the piano. I didn't ever really do the work to be able to. The flute was probably my best instrument, that I learned the most, that I could play the best. I could still pick up a flute and make it work.
Okay.
But I wanted to be in the marching band. I loved the marching band. And so, and there were 9,000 flautists, but there was only a couple of trombone players and they weren't girls. And so, because I wanted to be in the marching band and not just in the freshman band, I switched instruments.
So you switched from the flute back to the trombone?
I started on the flute and I went to the trombone. I learned to play the trombone in junior high, and then but I was a flautist in the junior high band.
Okay.
And then when I was a freshman in high school, I went to band with my trombone.
Now, interesting you say that. I mean, you get to high school, Plainville High and everything. I mean, just you're growing up, you're a teenager and all these other, everything that comes with that as far as just being a teenager here. Like, did you, obviously, I mean, it sounds like college was ingrained in you early on here, but did you have an idea as far as you navigating through those 9th, 10th, 11th grade, 12 years, like what you want to do?
I think I wanted to do everything, right?
Okay.
I knew that I was I wanted to be a professional actress, right?
Okay.
But I didn't want to go to college solely to be an actress because I didn't want to waste my mom's money, right? I didn't need to go to college to be an actress, but I needed to go to college to be anything, right? Yes. And nobody had been to college, so there were some things I didn't know, like I always wanted to go to Howard University. That was in my sights, but I didn't position myself to go to Howard, and I didn't take the SATs until I was a senior. I took the PSATs, but I didn't take the SATs. And so the first time I took them, I didn't do well. So by the time I was accepted to Howard, which I was, there was no financial aid left, all the package route. So I was going to have to pay for that. So we couldn't pay for that. And I applied for one other school, which was Bethany College in Bethany, West Virginia. And honestly, I applied for that college because I wasn't going there. And the cost of, and my guidance counselor was like, Dayna, you have to apply to more than one school. Like, it's just, you gotta apply to more than one school. I wasn't interested in staying in Connecticut. I wasn't interested in going to Virginia like everybody in my family. I wasn't interested in going to UConn. I didn't even see that. UConn wasn't even as like, I don't know, like exciting to go to, like people from all over the world want to go to UConn now, right? But that all kind of evolved when the girl Huskies sort of got, when the Huskies sort of got more,
right,
won games, right? But when I was in there, I mean, it was a good school to go to, but it wasn't like, I wasn't interested in going to there. But I knew some things, like I graduated with about 15 extra credits, because anything that you could do that you could get an extra credit for, I took. So I did some peer counseling at Wheeler Clinic, which was this really cool opportunity where we were supporting kids in the school. I worked at McDonald's, and if you had a part-time job, you could get a credit for that. Like anything that I could get a credit for, I took. So
did you have to go to school at all your senior year?
I did. Okay. Okay. Because I also never did my homework, and I was, so my grades were right along in the middle.
Okay.
My chemistry teacher told me, and I didn't, I did terrible in algebra 1, amazing in geometry. Algebra 2 was still kind of complicated for me, and then I didn't have to take a math my senior year. I
Okay.
was, but I was in the mask and gown club, right? The theater, the drama department.
Mhm.
Um, but I had to take like they did some testing, and I had to take some remedial English or some kind of crap. I don't know. That took me out of my drama class. I was really mad about it. I mean, you have to have these other classes, right, to get
Yeah.
out. But I took chemistry my senior year, and I would be that person that would like wait till the last minute to do the homework and and
Mhm.
study. And so, and like halfway through it, I'd be like, man, if I just read this book a week ago, I'd have been able to do this, right? I just can't. And my chemistry teacher told me about 2 weeks before I had to graduate, I hope, Dayna, I hope you don't need this class to graduate.
Mhm.
Um, but I managed to pass it. She probably gave me a pass, uh, but it was, I was always sort of pushing it to the wire. I was, but I did, I leaned in on all my extracurricular activities. Um, I was in the DECA club, and I was a president. I was a class officer my
Okay.
freshman, junior, and my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then when I was a senior, I didn't win. And I just really think they were tired of, it wasn't because I shouldn't have won. The white kids were like, all right, that's enough, black girl. You know
Mhm.
what I mean?
Mhm.
And it was um but but again, like we also like like we had a lot of fun, and we hung out with the black kids in New Britain, because I really, I was really that like soul sister. you
Okay.
know I was when I was growing up, I wouldn't even tell people like when I went someplace else that I was from Plainville. Like if I was around, I'd be like, I'm from New Britain. I don't
Oh,
live
New
there.
Britain. Okay.
Right. Because that's where the black kids were, right? It wasn't until I was a grown up and I started working at DCF that I was like, I'm from Plainville, and it's okay. It's a whole
Mhm.
nother level of conversation. Um, but I dated um I dated the jocks. I like my boyfriend when I was a freshman was the captain of the football
Okay.
team
Oh
at
yeah.
Bristol Eastern.
Okay.
And then by the time I was a sophomore, I fell, well, I dated this guy that I fell in love with, um that was the captain of the basketball team, the captain of the football team,
Mm.
and plus he was, played basketball. He was a jock. I mean, I just, that's where, I was that girl on, that would, I would, be at all the games, but I played sports
But you
too.
played, yes.
Mm-hmm. Um, and so I was on the football field, but I was playing the trombone, right? Because I was in the
Mhm.
marching band, and then
Mhm.
then and I was in the band, for basketball too. I like that. But yeah, I liked an athletic guy, and I was a big girl then too, so it was interesting.
Mm.
Um, it was very interesting. But I dated that guy for about 16 years on and off.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
He couldn't keep it together, and I couldn't
Mhm.
keep hanging around waiting for that to happen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. 16
you
years is a
know,
long time. Yeah.
yes, yes, but definitely and like dancing, like we went to clubs and dancing, like I really had a good time. I really had some of the best friends that I
Mhm.
still have strong friendship relationships with. um uh I liked hanging out with guys. Like
Okay.
I liked guys. Girls who had a lot more drama. There's, like guys are pretty easy to hang around with, and you could be really good friends with them as long as you don't sleep with them. So
Mhm. Right. Right. Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? It changes the dynamics if you're
Yes.
dating, but
Yes.
I could smoke a cigar and talk junk with the rest of them, and I sort of sat well with guys. Not that I don't have some of the best girlfriends ever, but again, girls came with much more drama, and so I found myself comfortable, hanging with the guys, and lucky that they let me hang with them because
Hmm. Yeah.
like that girl, right?
Yeah. 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 Nah, I hear you. I hear
And
you.
I'm a girl, like, I'm not a boy girl, like I'm a girl.
Yes. Hmm. Nah, interesting. So from Plainville to West Virginia here, is it this? How was this whole transition?
That was like the horriblest, wonderfulest thing I ever did in my life, because I ended up in a school that had less Black people than my high school,
Mm,
right? And my goal was to immerse myself in a Black institution, to be around Black people. That's what I wanted to do. I
mm,
wanted to join a Black sorority. I wanted to be in the Black marching band. I had it, like all of those things. Like I wanted to know Black people who were on the same trajectory as me and professional. You know what I mean? That's
mhm,
where I really saw myself. But I did not. I wasn't able to go to I wasn't able to go to that school because of the money. And so I was just gonna transfer after my freshman year. Of course, I
okay.
didn't transfer. Um, there's 2 Black women in my class. My freshman class had like 8 Black dudes from Akron, Ohio, and
Hmm.
Florida, and they had a smidgen of Black people, but it was really less. It was me and my friend Rosie, who were the 2 Black women in my freshman class. And the funny part of it was, so I figured out. Remember, I was a navigator,
Hmm.
so when I got down there, I made friends with the people in financial aid right away.
Okay.
Yep. So I made friends with the people in financial aid. And when I was talking to, I remember her name was Ann Zalaka. Ann Zalaka, her husband was the president, vice president, John. Yeah, he was the vice president, and she was in charge of financial aid. And I had gone to see her because, of course, I didn't know what I was doing, but I had filled some stuff out and hadn't done it right. And it was down there talking and making friends. And she was like, there's another Black girl on the second floor. Her name is Rose. She's from the DC area. And her mother dropped her off a week ago, and she looks really sad. Can you
Mm.
go, maybe you could, like, make friends with her or something, right? I was like, oh, I gotta make friends with the Black girl, right?
Yeah, right,
But
right,
anyway,
right, right.
but then I said, well, shit, I need to make friends with the Black girl, right?
Mm.
There's just 2 of us,
Hmm.
right? So I remember, and Rosette was this really rough, like, dude looking girl. Like, she was, you know, and I walked, and she was on the second floor and I was on the third floor, and I walked past her room like it was an accident. Like, like I didn't know where I was going. And so, like, I sort of
Hmm.
pretended. And best friend ever. Like we used to sing Basketball Jones and Curtis Blow and
Hmm.
all that stuff in the hallways and stuff. It was a great friend. She's still my friend to this day.
Yeah.
Um, but it was very different. West Virginia, it was very different than Connecticut. Definitely a lot more. Black people were much more oppressed. White people were oppressed. It was a coal mining, place
Right,
where
right.
people hadn't, where they had, the strip mines, and they had closed a lot of the mines right down in the 80s. All of that
Hmm.
was sort of going on. Um, and I was in this place that was sort of out on this mountain that was very remote in the northern panhandle of West Virginia. Used to fly into Pittsburgh to get here, and then you drove about an hour, to the campus. My my pastor at the time gave us his family minivan, and
Okay.
I went there sight unseen, got a full scholarship because they was trying to diversify their
Right.
campus.
Okay.
So the first year it didn't cost me nothing. Of course, nothing doesn't really mean nothing. It just means that you don't have to come up with any cash, and then they figure out how to make you have to pay all the way. The way I kept going to class was that I would, after my first semester of the freshman year, you have to come up with money every semester. And I didn't have any money, but I had work study, and I would work during the break. And so I couldn't register for my classes because I would owe money. So I would go to the financial aid office and cry. And Zalaka would let me register with the promise that I would pay in a couple of weeks. I would take the whole semester to pay the rearage, which didn't give me the money to pay forward so that I could sign up for my classes the next semester. So you know what I did? I went back
I was
to
about
the
to say, yeah, you went back. Yeah, went back and cried.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I went back and cried for 4 years. And my senior year, I got a job. So I went to school to be a professional actress, and decided that the best way to accomplish that was to take to get a degree in communications.
Okay.
So I was a communications major, and I minored in theater. And when I went to, so in that program, in my intro to mass comm class, I sat in the front, and you got 10 points for just attending, and I got a solid D in that class. I couldn't do it. But I also had taken a social work class for an elective. And I was phenomenal. I aced the class. The head of the department was like, you should be a social work major. And I was like, nah, be a social work major. And then I was like, well, let me think about this. I'm struggling in communications. I'm acing the social work courses, and it don't matter what I get. All I need is a degree. For me, I'm like, it don't really matter what it is because I'm gonna be famous, be an actress, and it don't matter, but I'm gonna have a bachelor's degree. So I shifted and that's how I ended up being a social work major.
Okay.
Yep. And I actually, it's probably because if you listen to my theme, I was probably always a social worker. I was trying to bring kids home in kindergarten. My mom was like, I was always rescuing people, people, puppies, I always had this, heart, very compassionate for people. And so definitely my teachers saw what was in me that I hadn't really understood yet.
That's what teachers, instructors do. They realize they see something. Sometimes they're wrong, but sometimes there's something that they got to go pulse on people here. Me ask, as far as obviously you get done with school here, the acting, did you still try to pursue it like early on, like once you got done with college?
Well, in school, I was in, I was in plays. So I was in musicals. So David Judy was the director of the theater department. So I took, acting 1, acting 2, I took the theater class. I was in a production of Comedy of Errors every year. I was in, I really like Shakespeare. I like Shakespeare when I was in high school reading it. I just loved Shakespeare. And so, and every year I was in a play. I was in a play in community theaters when I was in high school. I don't know if you are familiar with, we used to have what was called seated jobs. Did you ever hear that?
No, never heard of
Seated
it.
jobs was for low income kids. It's the summer program, the summer program that our adolescents that we pay for.
Okay.
It used to be called SETA.
Okay.
And the CETA was an acronym for something that I don't know anymore. But
Mhm.
anyway, it was that same program, except except you had a income threshold, and if you were at that threshold, then you would be able to have a summer job that you get paid for. And because and so they had all different kind of jobs, one of which was we could be in a play, or you could be, if you played instruments, there was a band and the band played for, like, they had all these different
Mhm.
activities. And I auditioned, and I was in a production of the Runaways. And then I was in several productions through the Hole in the Wall Theater till I went to college. I was in plays in high school. And then when I got to West Virginia, Dr. Judy, who was he loved me too. I
Mhm.
go, who doesn't love Dayna,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So he says to me, this was when I was a freshman. He goes, there's this play called um um for colored women who considered suicide when the rainbow's enough.
Mhm.
And he said, I want to do that. I want you to do that production here on this campus.
Mm.
Now that play calls for probably 8 to 10 Black women.
Okay.
We didn't have 8 to 10
Mm.
Black women
Yeah.
on the whole campus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Um, but by my senior year, we did that play, and I went and hustled every Black person on campus. Every Black woman
Mm.
on campus was in that play, with the exception of one Black woman who didn't do it, and her name was Kelly. And then we recruited a high school student who was coming to Bethany the next year. So it
Okay.
was a sophomore.
Okay.
It was a sophomore. And we did that production. And it was amazing. It was amazing. And
Mm.
it allowed all of us who maybe didn't interact together. Because I was like, oh, you think you white. And I had my own militant issues,
Okay.
which was like, I couldn't let people just be what they were. I had to say, you're Black, and don't start trying not to be Black. And they would be like, you angry. I was like, everybody always say Black women are angry. I actually did. I worked in the media center, and I actually did this whole display for Black History Month
Mhm.
at the school, um, with all the materials. It was really kind of good. And then, and when I used to go to, when you came on the campus, um, they had a lawn jockey, Black, red lips.
Mhm.
So the school was isolated, right? You'd go to the top of this hill, and then to be say, welcome to Bethany, and you'd go under the bridge. And the first thing you would see once you were entering the community was this lawn jockey, so I campaigned to get them to take the lawn jockey
Mhm.
down. I said,
Mhm.
you got people coming here, and when you pull up, this is the first thing and it wasn't like it was the schools. It was somebody who owned a property. It was a
Right.
private citizen, but before I graduated, that lawn jockey was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, that says something here. Well, you mentioned the production and all that here. Kind of nice little lead into the whole Queen Anne and Zigna. Like, how did this start? What was the? I know it's your baby, a lifelong thing you've been doing. How did this all come about? Was it something that was in the works, or was this one day you just thought about it and like, let me move forward?
So
How this work?
that's such a great question. So when I graduated from college, I came back. Remember, I did a lot of working,
Hmm.
lots of working. So like when I came back, I had enough money to do nothing.
Okay.
So from May to like July, I was like on the couch drinking beer. My mother probably thought I was gonna have to go to AA or something, because I was
Mm.
like, we just paid for you to go to college, and now you're drinking beer and laying on the couch all day.
Yeah.
So um and my friend Mary had a job in Southington, and it was called Hug, right? And it was Help Us Grow, and it was for people who were developmentally challenged, would have work. So it's like a work site coach.
Okay.
But so as a work site coach, and I worked at a restaurant in Wallingford with this company coaching people, and they didn't, and I had more degrees than the people who worked for me. Always a challenge, especially when you're Black. So then everybody has to prove why they don't need a degree to do the job that they're doing that's in charge of you. So anyway, so I worked there from July, like they called me sight unseen. They're like, we really want you to come and work. I was like, well, maybe after the 4th of July, I don't know. I still got money, and then I was like, and then they were like, just come, we just really need people. So I worked there from July, probably till around December, and then like maybe in November. And I was, like we would go to some of the other people's sites, and like one of the girls worked at the hotel and she watched TV, my peer, right? She would watch TV all day. And so I was like, well, I'm in the bar, I can watch TV all day. Well, you can't, remember, I'm Black. So they decided that I wasn't really fit for the job. And also, they wanted me to make photocopies or something. And I was like, you're not going to give me busy work. If you don't need me, you can send me home. Right? I don't have to sit here and make copies for you. And I would have made copies if you asked me to, but don't act like I should. You know what I mean? So it was at that point in December that they had this conversation with me. And I was like, well, what? I said, well, this is like my first warning. What do I need to do to improve so that I could stay? Right. So they gave me an extension and told me what I needed to do, which was my clue that I needed to get another job.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my indication. And since my ego didn't allow me to get fired, I wasn't going to get fired. And I networked with folks who got me that subsequently took the state tests, because we have to take a test. And I got hired in February 1988. So I graduated Bethany in 87, worked in Southington for, about 6 months.
Okay.
7 months, and then got a job, a temporary state job with the Department of Children and Youth Services.
Okay.
Yeah, because it used to be DCYS before it was DCF. And I was part of a campaign, a group of people. It was affirmative action, and they were trying to diversify the workforce. So again, there weren't a lot of Black people when I got hired at DCF, and nor did they think they needed Black or Spanish speaking people.
Okay.
And then they would hire like white people who spoke Spanish. That was crazy too. Anyway, so right. So I'm working at DCF. I'm working in Hartford. I'm going into these housing projects. I'm getting these cases where kids aren't going to school, like all of these things that I don't have experience in, because my experience about impoverished people was we were scattered.
Okay.
Right. So now I'm in the North, and we used to go to the North End of Hartford. My friend, we had busing, right? So I had friends in Hartford, so I like kind of hang out with them, but not like, in high school, sort of safe. And my mom had band rehearsal, and we would drive and get off the highway. And once we got on Main Street in the North End, my mom would lock all the doors, so it was just like, oh, we're in Hartford, click, click, click. You know what I mean? So we had sort of all this other kind of sort of conditioning. So when I started working at DCF and I saw these families, and I saw, and again, like how come you guys aren't going to school? Like, people died so you could go to school. Like, like, didn't you hear about Martin Luther King? Like, didn't you know, like, slavery? Like, those were the things sort of like in my head, like what, and some people would take that to blame the victim, right? You have, you could do anything you want. I did, I pulled myself up from my bootstrings. That wasn't my lens. I said, what made me different? My mother's a
Yeah.
single parent. What made me different? My mother didn't have any money, right? We were on public assistance till my mother couldn't stand it and figured out how to make more money and figure out. She got a job at the medical examiner probably late in her lifehood and sort
Okay.
of was able to retire with health benefits and like, all the things that she wouldn't have gotten being self-employed,
Okay.
right? Um, she said God was always with her. God loved her. Like she was really, because, she really got to do whatever she wanted to do in her life, and be successful. So I was looking at like what makes me different. We all went to like the National Association of Black Social Work Conference in
Mhm.
LA.
Mhm.
Um, and was just very motivated by, you know, Milana Karenga was there and his wife, and it was at that time when we were trying to make a law, not let them change the law so that Black kids could be placed in Black families and making resources and access available. I mean, so it was a real powerful conference. And I sort of came back to the office and said, what am I going to do? Like, what makes a difference?
Mhm.
What made the difference was there was a community of people who said, you will go to college. We believe in you. You could do anything you want. And no, just because you're Black. Yes, just because you're Black, you're going to be treated any really good, but the Black sheep of the family, everything was negative, right? Black sheep, blackball. If you die, right, you got Black as sin. And the
Yeah.
only way you go to heaven is if you're white as snow. I mean,
Mhm.
they bleach the flour, they bleach the sugar, like,
Mhm.
like those, that's the message, right? And so wanted to talk about, I wanted to celebrate all the things that we do as Black people to counter that, right?
Okay.
To have an environment, a community of people. And I was a performing artist, right? My grandmother played the piano, my mom played the bass, my father played the congas. We could sing, we could dance. And I knew that the arts was an easy way, right, for white people to be comfortable around us, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? That would open doors, right? It also allows you to gain certain skills that make you successful. So if you feel good on the inside, yes, I'm Black, yes, I'm mixed, yes, I'm brown, or even I'm white and I hang around white people, other people, because the privilege isn't really better. I mean, it's better if you are privileged, but you're not really better off because you don't know. And so I wanted to be that place where kids could go who look like me, who maybe grew up, and I didn't want to be in the city, right? Because I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up where I couldn't get a Black magazine or get hair care products at my local grocery store. You know what I mean? Or get my hair done in the local barber shop or the local beauty salon. And the beauticians would have to go to white schools that didn't know how to do Black hair
Yeah.
in order. Then you went to the Black salon and then you got the Black hair. You know what I mean? And so my idea was, let's put a program together. Let's base it on Kwanzaa principles, because Kwanzaa is an African American holiday.
Mhm.
I know a lot of stuff. I'm really kind of heavy when I listen to me. um, and um, and so a bunch of us people who had been inspired by the Black Social Workers Conference, at work, all came together and said, let's put something together. Let's do something. Because when I was at DCF, we were not prevention.
Mhm.
There was no money for prevention. That happened after Juan F.
Okay.
And so the idea was you had to catch a case to get help. And so my position was, how do we help people get help without having to be involved with the department at all?
Mhm.
And some of that meant giving kids an opportunity to experience success in the community. And since my friends, by this time, my friends, there was plenty of my friends who had kids that were the age to be in the program,
Okay.
and who wouldn't mind like having Saturday off. Dayna got all the kids, and we decided that we would start with Kwanzaa, like our year begins and ends in Kwanzaa.
Mhm.
So we did our first Kwanzaa event at the church. I asked the pastor, who was Charles Woody at the time,
Mhm.
if we could do the program at the church. I wanted it to be in a Black establishment,
Mhm.
in the Black church. He wanted me to have certain people help me. I said, you can sign them up, but they're not going to stay, so I let him help me, because you had to navigate
Right.
people,
Right.
right? And when they didn't stay, then I was able to do what I wanted to do. But the bunch of us at DCF would have meetings. People in the community, we had these meetings, had these ideas, but we never did anything. And we would talk about, there's insurance issues, there's liability issues, how the kid's going to get there. It's all these reasons why not. And remember, my mother taught me what? Why it doesn't matter.
Yes. Yes.
So one day I said, all right, I'm starting Saturday. Can I pick up the kids? And we would pick up kids. We did a performance with the kids. My grandmother bought the Unity Cup. My grandfather made the Kanara. I still have them. They're precious to me now, 30 some odd years later.
Yeah.
But we did a Kwanzaa event. We wrapped the kids in African stuff. We taught them how to play different parts of songs. And, we started out at the bottom in the basement of the church. Subsequently, we did our program at the parish center at Our Lady of Mercy, and then moved to Slade Middle School. Eventually evolved into the Bushnell. We were at Raymond Hill School for a while, and then went to the Bushnell, and then did a collaborative. We were just grassroots. Probably spent 2 or 3 years working on our paperwork to become an actual 501c3.
Okay.
Which we ended up doing and got our 50. We got the notice in October of 2008, but we applied in April in 2008 and got it the first time out, which is incredible.
Yes.
And then the economy tanked. And so there was nobody giving grants to new organizations in 2008. So we sort of had the thing, but the person, the executive director of Trinity on Main, at the time just really courted us and wanted us to be in the building and wanted us to be, she gave us space, she gave us reasonable rent. We did a program. It worked out really good. And then they had a coup and they kicked her out, and they were still nice to me. I'm still in that space, believe it or not. It's been quite a journey, but we're still there. And we're growing in terms of our infrastructure. So
that's great.
So I guess, did I answer that question?
No, you did. And as you talking and sharing that experience, I know when it's your baby here, how hard just throughout the years was it to kind of relinquish some of the duties here when ultimately that probably will help you. I mean, even though probably initially you probably like, what, this is my vision. Let me see it this way. I'll figure it out. I know it's only 24 hours in a day, but I'll figure it out. How was it for you to just kind of like allow other folks to help you out?
I learned so 2 things is that I never had the availability to let things go until I couldn't really hold on anymore, right?
Okay.
So it's sort of like I would let it go, but I never had anybody who would pick it up. Now, Is that because my energy said you can't pick it up?
Mhm.
Or really was it that I, you know, I'm not good at asking for things, really. Like, I'm not that one that knocks on doors and says, will you buy this? Will you buy this? Can you give us that? So, and then you kind of surround yourself with similar people. And so we have historically not been able to, like, sort of mitigate our opportunities to grow, right?
Mhm.
At the end of the day, if I write a grant and I got a deliverable, I'm going to make that deliverable happen.
Okay.
I don't know how, like, even if I have to go in my own pocket, but we're going to make that deliverable happen.
Mhm.
I really see myself as a place where people come through. Kids come through, interns come through,
Mhm.
adults come through, artists come through, and everybody sort of takes something with them and gives something back.
Okay.
Um, um, that's probably the first time I ever articulated it that way, but I love to help the helper. I love to teach. I like students because I'm impacting
Mhm.
the profession, right?
Mhm.
Um, if I see something, like even with you, when I met you, Karan, and there was gifts that you came with, right?
Mhm.
I didn't have you come and do what I wanted you to do. What I wanted you to do was cultivate what you already do.
Okay.
I sort of see that in people all the time,
Mhm.
right? I see, when, like, the teacher saw that I was a social worker.
Yes.
I see that in people all the time. My art, my performances, when I look at kids, and I know that children can do anything if we believe in them, right? The only thing that we can't do is what we say we can't do. Now, that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, or that there aren't obstacles, or that, life isn't fair and racism is alive and well and white people are working really hard to punish us because Obama was president.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right? People who you thought was all right are not all right, and
Yes.
are very, and I've had to make some decisions about that. But kids, there's always hope with kids. And if adults can see kids do things, sometimes they too can make those shifts. And so I sort of always see this place as a place where people can grow, where
Mhm.
they can try things that they want to try, and then we help translate that back to your classroom or your schoolwork or your church. I mean, I don't know how many kids, um, like, case in point, Sabrina Jones is at Howard, and Sabrina, when she came, she was this quiet little girl who did not speak to me, didn't want to be there, but she had seen us singing at the Bushnell and told her dad, I want to do that. And he called me up because we was in we went to high school, elementary school, everything. My
Mhm.
friend, and he said, I'm gonna bring my daughter, and she came and she's like, I want to go home. And I go, just let her stay. Man, that girl was, like, good at every sport. She was good at all her academics, and she was an artist. And
Mhm.
she sang, and almost 3 years ago, we traveled to Austin, Texas, where we performed with Betty Harris live.
Yeah.
I've been able to take kids internationally, but here's a kid, right? And then once she started doing stuff with me, she wrote a piece. She came and said, I want to do this song based on these artists. I said, we want to, what do you want to do? And then she said what she wanted to do, and I got it, visual. It was visual. We had, video. It was singing. Everywhere she went, she had to sing that song somewhere.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, several kids who would go back to church who never were asked to sing anything are now singing solos or
That's all right.
choreographing dancing, you know. And so it's been, that opportunity. Now, fast forward, I have staff, right? Now I have people who work for me who understand the concept but don't understand how to get there, right? And so the struggle for me, right, is some of us letting some of that go, because and being okay with the outcome, right? Which means I have to be ready for it to fail. It might not fail, right? But if I don't let it go, then I can't let it go. So I have to let other people pick it up. I have to let other people learn how to do. And I have to shift how I make people accountable. Sort of like for me, one of the things I struggle with today is mobility, right? So I have a little problem with my hip. So now I think differently. Where am I going to park? How close can I get to, like when I'm getting ready to go somewhere? Is there parking? Are there stairs? I need to know those things. Does that mean I'm not going? No, I just need to have a plan about how to go there, right? Am I going to have to stand up? Are there going to be seats? What kind of shoes am I going to wear? All of those things have some implications about what kind of decisions that I make. With this program, it's sort of the same way. Like, how much, can I let things go, right, in order to get help? Because I don't want it to die with me. I want it to live on. I want, and it can't live on if all it's me. But I'm surrounded by people who want me to, I could do it, right? So also like sort of expanding my world to people who do things a little bit more than okay, Dayna could do it. So part of my struggle with the people who help me, right, is remembering I need the help, right? So don't cut off your nose to spite your face. If these people got mad and walked away today, you'd be SOL, right? I need them, right? I need people to do the budget. I need people to do the books. I need to, so I gotta be smart. Comes with being Black and being able to navigate things.
Right.
At the same time, people come with their ideas and their Eurocentric approach to the work. So things that you bump into those kind of people are like, well, everybody calls you auntie, so you must have a boundary issue because you're their aunt. What I'm saying is, that if we're working with a relational model, right? Relational model, mindfulness is all the new trends, right? Right. And to therapy is based on sort of Kwanzaa principles, and talks about, spirituality and harmony and community and relationships, which means that if you really want to help Black people, and you want somebody we have to trust you.
Yes.
Right. And we have to trust that you're, and it's, and that's, what is that? Multiple generations of trauma, right? You can't tell your business because that could cost you your life, right? When you talk about when people were receiving public assistance, you couldn't tell your business because your benefits would get taken away, right? You couldn't be a man in your house because if there was a man in your house, the kids wouldn't get the benefits, right? So there's all these kind of things that kind of ripple off into, sort of that situation. So having the capacity, again, to sort of identify what you're working with, having the courage to let some things sort of fail, and also to guide people from a place where they are feeling successful. I think in my journey, what I learned was, and I learned it from interns and I learned it from people who worked for me, was that I didn't spend a lot of time sort of complimenting what people were doing, and just sort of focused on what I needed that wasn't getting done. And when you have people who are volunteering, right, they have to feel good about what they do. If people are working for you, they have to feel that what they're doing is good and valuable. The the balance for me is that what we need, like sometimes you have to do what I say do, because I'm the one that's in charge, and ultimately I'm responsible for I'm fiscally responsible for the agency, for all the grants that we get, and reporting to the grantors that we're using their money like we said we were, making sure that we don't cause liability issues for our board members by making decisions that could put them in jeopardy. Employees don't have to carry that weight, so but if you don't widen the net, then you can't grow.
Nah,
Did I answer the question?
No, definitely makes sense here. No, and I appreciate you just sharing all this. Like, this is great here. I just wanted to know. I got a part of this where I just ask some random questions, if you don't mind being random with me for a little bit. If you don't mind.
No problem. You've always been my favorite, Karan.
Oh, listen
Might
to
be
you
that
here.
birthday.
Yeah. No, October 5th. Absolutely.
Yep.
Most definitely here. So when driving, you prefer 84 or 91?
84.
Block party or going to a club?
Outside, block party.
Okay. They do block parties in Plainfield?
Nope.
You want to do bread?
Yep.
Oh.
Now, when I was growing up, I went to the club. But if you're talking about what my preference is,
yeah, just
today,
however you want to answer. However you want to answer it. Yeah.
Well, it's my answer, right? Oh
yes.
yeah. Yeah, and listen, I'm almost 60.
Yeah.
So the clubs. By the time the club is open and popping, I'm about ready to go to bed.
Yeah, nah. 9 o'clock is the new midnight for you.
Exactly. And with COVID, we got used to not going nowhere.
That's right.
So I really need the sunshine.
Nah, that's right. The Jeffersons or the Cosbys?
Oh, that's a tie.
It's a tie.
Yep, for lots of different reasons.
Okay.
Because I came through both of them, like the Jeffersons was cutting edge, but they were a little buffoony, George was, and then the Cosbys, really talked about a Black upper middle class family with values. That was also certainly controversial back in the day. Right. They, people didn't want them to do that, and but he was able to launch that. So I mean, I just think they both were good in their time.
Okay, fair enough. Norton Park or Stanley Park?
Oh, definitely Norton Park.
Okay. Plainville High or Bethany?
I think I don't know. I'm gonna have to say they both serve their purpose. I'll tell you a little bit about Bethany. Okay. And maybe 10 years ago, I'd have said Plainville High, hands down. But I went back to Bethany after 25 years. When I left Bethany, I was never going back. I mean, it was just a couple things. One was, there wasn't any. I didn't meet any progressive people that looked like me. That I was gonna, sometimes you go somewhere and then you meet people in the community. Our community was on that campus and everybody went home, right? Number two, back in the 80s, I really felt like the economy was amazing in Connecticut. Okay. It wasn't amazing in West Virginia. I felt like the people who lived there needed to have first. I could have worked there. I could have made good money there. But I felt like the people who lived there, who was committed, should have those resources, because I could make money doing anything in Connecticut. I'll go make more money at McDonald's than those people was making. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there wasn't any reason for me to stay there. And there wasn't a big Black community. But I went back after 25 years and I reconnected with old friends, and there was tons of Black kids on campus.
Okay.
Yep. And
good to see. Yeah.
Yep. And even though the school, like, I think, I went back about 2 years ago and did a presentation about why I stayed and why kids should stay there. Because I didn't intend to stay, but I had the best opportunities. I would not have been able to stay at Howard because I didn't have the money. I didn't have the money all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so lots of Black kids had to go home when the money ran out, and crying wasn't going to help me at Howard.
Yeah.
You know?
I
So I was where God orchestrated for me to be. And I was there so that when I came back, there Black kids could see people like me who were successful because of that education. I was cared for, I was nurtured, I was in the communication, I worked in the media center. I had access to television, I did TV, I did radio, I did technology there. I babysat the director of communication in the media center. I stayed at his house. I took care of his kids.
Yes.
When I didn't have a place to go, I had a place to go. And so in hindsight, that, and I auditioned for the Colored Girls play in the theater, in the Hole in the Wall Community Theater when I graduated back in the 90s, and I got cast for the exact same part. Like crazy, like I didn't even like the part I got, but I was cast, like I just didn't think that was me. But so I feel like I really appreciate all I got from Bethany, but I didn't know it then.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. No, I definitely see what you're saying here. Speaking of stuff here, and you mentioned the 80s here. Favorite decade of your life at this point? 70s, 80s, 90s. For whatever reason.
So I liked maybe the 80s, right?
Okay.
Rap was a little bit cleaner, right? It didn't, maybe the 80s. The fashion got a little, bad in the 80s and the 90s, what we wore wasn't so exciting as the 70s, yeah, I guess that's what I would say.
All right. Black History Month for Kwanzaa.
Well, Black history is always, right?
That's right.
And I built a whole career on Kwanzaa, so I'm gonna say Kwanzaa because I can always loop everything about Black history into the 7 principles.
Absolutely. Performing or teaching?
Teaching.
Queen Anne, Insignia Center or Insignia Daughters?
It's all the same thing.
Okay. Best part about being a mom?
I would say they grow up and leave, but no, they won't leave.
Oh, they grow up and leave.
But they're not leaving, so I gotta take that back. I feel like maybe an opportunity to really practice what you preach.
Yes.
Right? Because we were helping families, right? And parents before we were parents. And really understanding things that maybe you don't, that make sense philosophically, but don't translate into, when you start getting them,
I hear you. But best part about being Dayna Snell?
I don't know. I think that I lead with my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want as much for everybody else um, that I want for. I think that I'm incredibly insightful and kind and selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want and that is very natural for me.
Yes. Yes.
And so I guess I love being my authentic self,
Mm.
and I'm finding the connections, like when I talk to you today, it's
Mm-hmm.
just all right, I was like that when I was 5, and I was like that when I was 2,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like that when I was 20.
Yes.
And when I came to DCF, I was an old person. Like my best friends that I made here used to say, "Man, Dayna, you're so freaking deep. Can you just have fun?" And like for me, it's the same thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm so deep. Like again, like sometimes when I hear it, I go, I'm kind of heavy. I'm kind of I'm kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And I know you had a bunch of these, but what's 3 of your proudest moments thus far of your life?
Hmm. I think one of the proudest moments, I think, is being able to facilitate that house that my mom always wanted.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I just dig my mom.
Yes. Nah, nah, definitely.
you know,
Definitely. Definitely. Got 2
and
more?
I got 3. I got to do 3.
You got 2 more? Yeah.
Let me
If,
think. Let me think. Um, I think the work that I've done at DCF and the
okay.
connections that
Okay.
I've made, I hired lots of people. I trained lots of people. I supported lots of people. I
Mm-hmm.
helped people on the inside and on the outside. And I think that I've been able to leverage my position and my knowledge to help other people be successful on any level. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you know, every now and then I send a text to the commissioner that says, "You got this, girl."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and and some days I'm like, and who am I? But I'm that person
That's right.
that needs to be in your ear, right? I'm Big Mama, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay.
And I guess my third one is that, um I'm proud of what I've created with Queenie Anne and
Yeah.
all the kids that I've been able, the kids, the adults, the interns, the way I can ask people to help me
Mm-hmm.
at any time and they're available. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's it, like what I did with Queenie. I mean, I love my kids and, I'm learning how to be okay with their decisions.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And I just think that's all my personal growth.
Mm-hmm.
But if I want to be proud of me, right, then I should talk about what I've done to make things that make me feel proud about other how I am a good mom and how I
Mm-hmm.
am a good friend and how I
Mm-hmm.
am a good mentor and a
Mm-hmm.
teacher um and a cook.
Mm-hmm. Nah, absolutely. It all comes together. It all comes together. Now,
Mhm.
if you had one do-over, is it just what would it be? Like one do-over in your life? It was
There was this really nice guy that liked me. I probably should have dated him.
okay. Okay. Okay.
I gave him a hard time, and
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I went with the knucklehead.
Yeah. 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 No, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people fall prey to them. A lot of people fall prey to the
Right.
knuckleheads. Book on your life. What would you call it?
She Won't Stop.
She wanted. That's right. Couldn't throw a better title. You're right about that. You're right about that. Now, this Dayna, at your point in life, what advice would you give that 17, 18-year-old senior in high school, Dayna? What advice would you give her?
I think I still would have liked to have, you know, not procrastinated
Okay.
as much, and really budgeted my time better. Um, I would still like to go to Howard University
Mm-hmm.
and go to a Black school,
Okay.
right? And things might have gone very differently for me that way. So, I mean, I know that I am where God wants me to be,
Mm-hmm.
doing what God wants me to do. But I would have said, do your homework on time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
balance that a little better.
Nah, what would at this point, what would your parents say about you? I know father's no longer here, but what would your parents say about you?
They both think I did pretty great,
Mm-hmm.
they both kind of bragged about me,
Okay.
you
Okay. Nah, deservedly
my
so.
yeah, my mom suggests that, genetically that was her contribution and that's why I'm great. And my mom, so you're sure you know how she said that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I took everything that they tried to pour into me. Like, despite the disappointments that I had with my father, he did try to correct that at the end to his best capacity.
Okay.
And honestly, he said from the day I could remember, I got money, you're going to college. I got money, you're going to college. You're going to college. And he had a 6th grade education. So
Yes.
I know that if he didn't put that in my head, my mother didn't say I was going to college. She said, well, if you go, we'll figure it out. My mother was afraid to go away. My grandmother was afraid to go south, but my mother also made sure that she said she was afraid to do lots of things. So she made sure that I wasn't afraid, that I could do anything independently. I didn't have to have people with me. If I wanted to go to a movie, I go by myself. I have more friends than like is probably legally possible. Like friends, not like just associates, So I think they would say, you used every piece of that we poured into you and more. And who could not be proud of me? What do I do bad?
That's right. Nah, that's right. That's right. That's right. What's up? What else being said? What's next? What's on deck for you?
Well, I want to vacation a lot.
Okay.
My goal is to retire soon.
Okay.
I haven't put any official papers in, so it's not,
Okay.
that public, but I will be, I want to travel.
Yeah.
Like COVID taught us, like I could do work anywhere.
That's
right. I don't have to
right.
be on site to do work. We don't need brick and mortar. I love to sing. I want to sing with people.
Okay.
I want to be a Lana Van Zant and like fix people in 45 minutes and call it a wrap, hit it and quit it.
Yeah.
I want to create something, for my kids, but I definitely want someone to make one of those calls for the people to come that remodel your house and you get a soaker tub and a new kitchen. And then they move the building and you're like, that's my house.
Yeah.
I really want that.
Okay. Nah, good stuff here. Nah, Dayna. Lastly, I just wanted to say I thank you. I mean, just for a lot of reasons here. I know or whenever I needed something or asked for something of you or what have you, I don't think I ever heard her no. I mean, if worst case, figure it out or what have you here, and I think just even with all that being said, just helping me navigate this adulthood of mine and this journey of mine here, like you've played a significant part even to this
Mm.
day here, and I haven't forgotten that, and will never forget that. And like I said, I just want to say just thank you for all you've done for me. I mean, obviously the countless others, but I'm being selfish on this one here. Just
Mhm.
wanted to say no, thank you for everything that you've done for me. I'm really appreciative and grateful for it and for you here. So I just want you to know
Anything for you, birthday twin,
that.
Jersey pal.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That's right. That's right. Nah, nah.
It was. I don't believe that anything is a coincidence,
Yeah.
or I think that I was your training supervisor.
Hmm.
Um, and I stuck with you when they tried to do what they do to people.
Right.
And I just see all the wonderfulness in you. I love your family, the one that you came with and the one that you created while you were here.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, not in the past tense, but you are, and listen, you sat on the front porch with me when there was some bullshit going on in the neighborhood. Do
Right.
you remember that? You just sat on the
Yeah.
porch when I had all that problem and just sitting on the porch, like, just made it possible
Hmm.
to work through. And that wasn't part of your field. That was extra.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Nah, it's all good though. It's all good.
So I appreciate you too, Karan, and I appreciate the opportunities were that you allowed me to be able to help you and
Hmm.
share and mm, be involved. So, and I love the man that you continue to evolve in.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
I appreciate it.
yeah.
Nah, 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 nah. Thanks for all of that. Thanks, and I mean, again, and I appreciate you jumping on here. Like I said, this has been great, and I appreciate, like I said, stuff I didn't even know about you. So it's cool to hear some things I didn't know. So nah, thank you, Dana.
No problem.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff here. Very, very appreciative of Dana of all that she's done for me, and continues to do for me, and then stuff that she just done for hundreds of thousands of people here throughout her life here. The joy that she's brought and the things that she's taught people, and that sticks with us to this day here. So, with that said, I'm just gonna step aside. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.